before long, but we certainly welcome you all. And I call the meeting to order. First order of business is Rachel's going to explain how we can get our work done with the little boxes available to us.
Sure thing, Rick. So welcome everyone. If you have not done so, if you could drop your name and affiliation in the chat box, just so we have a record of that for attendance for this meeting. Just some Zoom housekeeping. We will have some presenters, you can see on the agenda, different presentations from different partners. So if you can keep yourself muted if you're not speaking to cut back on some feedback noise, that would be wonderful. If you do have a question, feel free to either put it in the chat box, or if you would like to pop off mute and ask it yourself, more than welcome to. If we get too many questions at one time, there should be a raise hand option if you go down to your toolbar, and it might be either in your participants, if you click on participants, or reactions. We were discussing when we first got in this morning that some folks might have different versions. So you're welcome to use that, and we would be able to see you have a little hand up by your icon if you would like to come off mute to talk. When we get to the business items section of our agenda, we have a few items of business, not much that's been brought to Megan and I's attention, but that would be for any of our district directors that would be voting on that for the business items only. We can use the participant buttons, but if you have trouble finding them, as we were discussing this morning, they could either be in participants on your participant tab or reactions. It might be easier, just Rick, to have a voice vote with this group and just do a yay, nay off of mute, or put in the chat if you're unable to have a microphone. Again, not too many items of business, but we want to make sure we get that for the minutes. I will be recording this meeting as well. If you have any questions, we can go back to that, also to help our staff with recording minutes for this meeting as well. There might be some documents shared in the chat. Just so you all know, you should be able to, we are saving the chat, and also any slides or handouts that presenters would like to share with you all. Watch for an email from myself after this meeting today with a link to all of those resources. That's all the housekeeping I have, Rick, unless you have anything you wanted to add.
Oh, no, I think that's fine. Are there any questions or comments from the group? All right, if not, let's jump right into it. Does everybody have an agenda or can see the agenda in front of them? And if so, we will just go ahead and take it in order as we go. I know Kendall's on. How about, is it Giannini?
Janina's on. I'm here.
There you go, Janine. Come on, let us have some information.
Well, I think Kendall has got a slide that she's going to share. It's my understanding.
Oh,
it's not
yeah.
it's not typical that we go first. It kind of caught me off guard. I was like, well, maybe I have like a few minutes to get myself organized.
Yeah.
So I can't find my notes, so I'm just going to go off the cuff and we'll see how it goes. So
I just don't, you're never not organized. So you just go right ahead.
Okay, well, that's why I have Kendall. She helps me stay organized. And with these really nice slides that help me with bullet points. Well, so thank you all today. It's great to be here for the Area 1 meeting. Good to see everybody. You got 50 participants. That's pretty good for 9 o'clock in the morning. Everybody getting up. I see some familiar faces, so I'm looking forward to the meeting. Hopefully for some of us who have been on multiple meetings, my little spiel here won't be too redundant, but that's okay. I'll try to spice it up since I can't find my notes. But first of all, I wanted to thank everybody for all the hard work. And you guys have heard this in other meetings and probably heard this if you attended our spring quarterly meeting. We faced a lot of challenges in the last 13 months or so. Some of us have been working 100% from home. which is a challenge. And I know some of our district staff have been navigating issues with kids at home and not being able to get into the office and different challenges with the pandemic. But I have to give a kudos to all the district staff and all the directors on keeping us in a very efficient and streamlined process the last 13 months. And I really thank everybody for all that hard work. We were able to put a lot of money on the ground, still in a safe distancing realm. We were able to get education programs still to our youth and our students in a virtual space, which was amazing. And so I'm just going to touch on a couple of those. I believe, is Richard Chafin on today? Kendall, I didn't have a chance to see him in the thing, in the list of participants. Because Richard Chafin is our foundation president, and he's on the agenda, it looks like. So I probably won't talk too long about some of our education foundation information, but I will share some highlights. So the first highlight I want to share with you, and I believe Kendall is going to take over with legislative issues here in a little bit, but I can tell you it was an amazing session. We didn't know what to expect coming into the session, given we were in a virtual space, which was really different than how we've done our legislative days in the past, which was walking the halls and standing outside of our representatives' offices, waiting for that few 10 or 15 minutes to speak to them about soil and water conservation districts and how important funding, as well as some of the other items on our legislative agenda are. And this year we were very successful. We had a lot of folks in the legislative that were for us and helping us see some of these bills through and getting the funding that we needed. A lot of that was due to Kendall having these really close relationships with some of these folks in the General Assembly and being able to meet with them through Zoom. I do know that some directors and other staff had opportunities to have virtual meetings with their legislative representatives, and that was really good for everyone. It was an opportunity to have face-to-face conversations with individuals that aren't feeling the pressure of somebody standing outside of their door. And so it actually turned out really well. I think we had a lot of lessons learned, but I don't think that we could have asked for a better session in this virtual environment. And a lot of kudos to our association staff for their hard work and all our champions in the state legislature. And I don't know, Kendall, did you want to talk about legislative issues, or I didn't see if there was another place on the agenda for that, or?
President France, however you like. If you want topics, I'll fill in the gap. And I know they're so privileged to have Senator Hanger on the agenda that I'm probably going to couch our comments a little bit too.
All right, that sounds good. Maybe I'll just run through mine and then we'll toss it to you in a little bit, and then Senator Hanger can talk about some of the great work that he did to help us during this session. So a couple things. Kendall's put up a slide here. This is my reminder slide. So I'm sure I'm supposed to talk about this stuff, which I have. Bonnie Mall has been amazing in working with all the district staff, our education coordinators, to get the Envirothon in a virtual space so that we can continue to provide our students with an opportunity to participate in this wonderful soil and water conservation program. We did receive some money from Dominion Energy still, which helped us with some of the challenges in getting these mock trainings done, getting our tests, our virtual tests in a manner that would achieve a similar goal, even though we couldn't get out and jump in holes and actually touch leaves and look at organisms. I think that it was very successful in the way in which we conquered that challenge. I still feel that the individuals that were most challenged by the pandemic in the virtual space was our education folks, mostly because historically that has been a program that involves coordinating with youth on a face-to-face, in-person basis. A lot of the learning is, like on the slide, hands-on, outdoors, getting out into the environment, being part of nature, and learning from nature. And that's really difficult to do when you can't actually set foot outside your home, to study some of this and get involved. I know with us at our district, with the Tri-County City, I'm not sure a lot of you other folks have, meaningful watershed days, and we're talking 500 students, that we have out in the environment. And so it's really challenging to make that really meaningful. I mean, that's the whole point, is to have a meaningful experience. So how do you do that in a virtual space? Bonnie did an incredible job and working with your staff to get this program out there, and it's still going on. There were a lot of lessons learned. It's still in a virtual space this year. It's going to be even better than last year because we've learned a lot through our virtual training sessions, through learning about marketing and media and how to present this information. And so I'm happy to say that it's moving forward. The state Envirothon will be virtual, as well as the NACD Envirothon, I believe, is also supposed to be a virtual event. So still an opportunity for youth to participate. Youth Conservation Camp was canceled, but I'm happy to say that they brought it back to a virtual space, and they're teaming up with Department of Forestry. And so they have a Natural Resources Academy that they're putting on in mid-July. The great thing about this is that it's only $25 for students to attend, which is awesome, because I think it opens the door for a lot of students who may not have felt comfortable applying or unable to get to conservation camp because it was at Tech, and maybe they live on the way eastern side of the state and they can't make the drive, or for other reasons. Great opportunity. If you haven't, encouraged some of your local youth, please do. I'm excited that we're still able again to offer this, and I'm hoping next year we'll be able to get back to Tech and out in the environment. And so we'll see. I didn't know if Bonnie was on, if she wanted to add anything. Kendall?
Bonnie could not be here this morning, but I will mention 2 items. So Resource Academy open for 8th graders up. The application is on our Facebook page and website. Certainly staff can drop it in the chat box if folks need reference to it. The other item in reference to Envirothon that President France talked about is there's a lot of lessons learned. Thanks to those of you who helped participate in the virtual mock Envirothon. It was a really good beta testing for us. We are in need of volunteers on May 16th, and Bonnie would be disappointed if I didn't make that plug. It is still in a virtual space, and that is the one-day competition for a couple-hour Zoom meeting where we're looking for volunteers to join and be proctors. So you go into a breakout room with that team, and maybe you listen to that team's work in terms of completion of their test, but you also are ensuring they're not Googling answers. And if they have any technical difficulties, then you reach back out to us and we'll pop into the breakout room and try to solve those. So we'll have a prep meeting with those who are willing to volunteer for the 16th on May 13th. And if that's of interest, reach out to Bonnie and me.
Please do. And Kendall, while you're talking, the other thing is our association scholarships. Have we passed the due date for those yet?
They were due on Friday, and we are pulling together a scholarship committee. Shannon will be reaching out to those members this week. We've got a really great candidate pool. Thank you to all of you who submitted. And within about a month's time frame, our scholarship committee will wrap up and have announcements for you all district.
Great. Yeah, this is the first area meeting where I haven't had to say, or we haven't said, get your applications in by. So I just wanted to make sure that I remember the right date. And so we're good. So another thing that I want to talk about, and also it's an education foundation fundraiser, is the golf tournament. So I would be remiss if I didn't remind everybody that the golf tournament is on May 19th. Might be a little bit of drive for some. It's in Richmond at the Hollows golf course. It's a little bit different this year. If you can attend, I encourage you, if you're interested in making the journey. I think it's going to be a great in-person event, our first really in-person event since March. It was funny, we were talking at the Area 3 meeting that the Area 3 meeting back last year was the very last in-person event that I attended. So in that last year. So I am looking forward to seeing some individuals in person in a very safe and social distancing manner. Kendall sent out a lot of information. If you can't attend, I would really encourage folks to think about being a whole sponsor or sponsoring a golf cart. This is really the first opportunity outside of our unusual silent auction that we did in December to get folks to help us bring some money in for the Education Foundation. And so again, I encourage you all to check out those emails and put together a team if you feel like making the journey. Another thing on this list is the membership directory. They will be coming to you. I think we'll have hard copies coming in the mail, and then obviously you can get on the association website and find a electronic version for those of you that want to have that information right now. It may be difficult, depending on what your districts are doing to have in-person meetings to get your directories, but I'm sure that your great district staff will figure out how to get those to you. I don't know, do we have a next slide? What's on the next slide? Because I was going to talk about VCAP really. Oh, we have virtual trainings. And then so virtual trainings, I have to say, and I'm going to let Kendall talk about a little here. One of the things I am most impressed about is where we've gone with these virtual blitzes, these training blitzes. This is something that, I don't think that we would have ever come this far without kind of being forced into a virtual setting for our annual meeting and trying to really think forward and figure out how do we get this really important information out, to all our districts in the Commonwealth. And we've had some incredible virtual trainings, and it keeps going and it's not stopping. And I think that that's wonderful. And it's amazing because a lot of our directors and staff who may not typically been able to attend the annual meeting or take advantage of these trainings can now take advantage of them from home in their own space and fit it into their schedules. And so there's still a couple virtual trainings coming up, and I'm going to let Kendall briefly talk about those trainings and then some upcoming meetings that folks might be interested in attending. And maybe she might even talk about the Soil and Health Coalition really quickly. They had their kickoff meeting yesterday with a lot of great partners. Secretary Ring was there, and so we had Patina Ring on, as well as some others, and it was a very exciting session. So Kendall, could you talk to us about the virtual training and then a little bit about our Soil and Health Coalition, which I'm sure everybody's interested in?
Of course, I'll move through it fairly quickly, but as President France has kind of alluded to, even in a virtual space with few limited in-person meetings, we're really busy and certainly trying to find ways to reach and help your districts. On your screen are a number of virtual trainings that are still to come. Admin Ops topic, attachment D, next week. Make sure you've registered for this one. Remember that is due in July, and this session will be a walkthrough with Blair Gordon and our staff of how you can really complete that efficiently and effectively. There's a couple that you can't register for yet. Y'all are on the front end of hearing about this. Conservation selling skills as part of the Conservation Planner certification. We are working with DCR and Waterworks that work, and we will be hosting on the association Zoom account the 3-part series, July 6th, 8th, and 13th. Note that the time is different on the 13th. It does not conflict with different VAX training that you have. This, again, will count towards your Conservation Planner certification, but it is there for all of our directors. We can hold plenty on our Zoom account, and I really think that's going to be a really great option. I keep hearing the training needs from staff and directors. So as President France alluded to, we went virtual for our annual meeting this past year, but we've recognized that you still need training. So if there's one we can bring to the space, please let us know. That's why you have QuickBooks Beginner and Advanced on the horizon, as well as a 1099 training coming probably late summer, early fall that we've already contracted for. The other upcoming sessions of interest, we tentatively have a May 10th date right now for Admin Ops Committee. That might shift a little bit. Reason for that is because of tax season right now. There's been an extension. One of the really exciting things the association has been able to do, because so much of our funding had been spent at an in-person annual meeting on rental space and things, we've taken some of that dollars and we've been able to shift it into the retainer for districts. So 100 hours for districts to use with the CPA. It's why you'll be getting QuickBooks beginner and advanced sessions. And we want to bring that CPA to the first admin ops committee meeting to roll out and discuss how we would be using that retainer with districts and get some guidance from districts on what might be best. So stay tuned to learn a bit more on that one. We'll be working with the CPA to make that session happen. May 20th, the Soil and Water Board, that will be the third in their spring sequence where they finalize additionally grants. Mr. Representative from the area, I'd encourage you to be in conversation with him and pass on any concerns for the board that direction, but we certainly serve at the table. And also stay tuned for our June quarterly board meeting information. I'll be working with our leadership team on how we pull that together. We did join the Soil Health Coalition meeting, the kickoff yesterday. I know that Mary Sketch is actually on your agenda, but so much of the thunder. This has been a topic, as you know, on our radar for a while. Many of you even had the conversation last fall about a soil health policy for us that we did approve in December, and we've and been excited about that momentum around soil health. And to really hit the ground running yesterday with that first coalition meeting, I think is going to be the ground for a lot of great effort along that network. So I'll leave some of those details to Mary to talk through, but if you missed that meeting, I know she recorded it. I know there'll be the second meeting in July. I do serve on the steering committee for the Soil Health Coalition. If you're interested, I'd be happy to talk a bit further, but we'll really get into some of the steering committee's meet and needs next week too, as a recap from yesterday's meeting. Moving, Janina, didn't know if you wanted to touch this or want me to try to move us through a few legislative items.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that for us. The only one I was going to really highlight was the VCAP. And so as you folks know, like VCAP is one of the programs, this suburban, I call it suburban urban conservation, because it's not just focused on solely urban gaps, but this is a program that folks know we've been really pushing for the last couple of years, and we always have more need than funding. Again, somewhat like cost share for our agricultural producers, we're seeing this bump in requests for VCAP, and most of that in the last year, a lot of people are just hanging out at home thinking about, home projects and where they can put in rain gardens and where they can stabilize their soil. So we had a big push for additional VCAP funding, and we were surprised because we thought that it wasn't going to, the horizon didn't look good, and then all of a sudden the FY22 budget comes out and we have an additional $500,000. So now we're up to $1 million of VCAP. And I know Kevin's working really hard to still pull in other money from other resources and grants and programs. And so we continue to really put some other conservation practices on the ground in those more residential settings. And so I think that I'm happy to say that that program is going strong, and we're looking forward to pushing it all over the Commonwealth, not just in the Chesapeake Bay, but also available to other folks in the Southern Rivers area and other areas throughout the Commonwealth. So stay tuned. I don't know, Kendall, do you want to add some information?
Sure, I can touch on this real quick and keep us going. VCAP, you may remember we took our legislative agenda and became very focused on our topics this year. One of them being to increase from the governor's proposed budget that 500,000, and we did succeed to getting it to $1 million. To President Francis' point, Kevin and Maura would probably reiterate, don't wait until July 1st for those dollars. Really hit the ground running. If you have VCAP applications to start moving, move them now. Anything on our wait list will be ready to roll on July 1st. A couple other topics here. Soil and Water Board, I will really give huge kudos to Senator Hanger and Delegate Plum. You may recall the one we had on our legislative agenda in terms of a bill was to ensure that geographic representation was allowed on our Soil and Water Board. So thank you to Senator Hanger and Delegate Plum. That passed unanimously. Additionally, a lot of you might be interested in environmental literacy. There was an additional 170,000 provided in the budget thanks to the legislature in funding for MAWI grants. We met with DCR yesterday to really start the process of thinking through how that RFP will come out, how that can help your own meaningful watershed opportunities in a district, as districts are eligible to apply. So stay tuned for more as that comes together and districts might be able to take advantage of it. I won't steal so much thunder. I know Russ and DCR folks really speak to this. We're sometimes reversed in the order on the agenda.
Steal away, Kendall.
My big ask and takeaway for this screen is really to know that come July 1st, we have a really robust ag VAT. And even the dollars on your screen for funding are not the only dollars that are made available. The funding levels here are actually not inclusive of the recordation fee. And right now that's a big seller market for housing. So that's been doing really well. What I would say is that the numbers on your screen, thanks to legislators like Senator Hanger, are higher than what the governor's proposed budget had included. Funding provided for Ag BMP 61, also thanks to Senator Hanger and folks, we've really been able to make a really great win and success for a base TA, and for that whole nomenclature to become a reality with DPB and folks to realize there needs to be a baseline for technical assistance because your staff are that critically important to the program and can't ride that roller coaster of funding. So I will leave it at that, and Russ, you come back and hit what you want. I will stop there and see if Stephen wants to offer any NACD comments, unless you have additional.
Sure, thank you, Kendall. NACD had its annual meeting in February this year. It was a 10-day event of virtual meetings and training, a rather long program because they wanted to try to include everything had in a personal sit-down type setting. Over 1,850 people registered for the event, which compared to what they had expected had it been an in-person meeting would have been 1,100. So it was a great participation level for it. The trick is how to do something next year that might combine both aspects of a virtual and an in-person meeting. Next year's meeting is planned to be held in February in Orlando, Florida. Because this is the 75th anniversary of NACD. This year's meeting, summer meeting, is being planned for Chicago in July, late July, which is where NACD was formerly organized. And its first annual meeting was actually held in Chicago also. At this meeting, we elected a new officer team. Michael Crowder is our new president. He's from out in Oregon, a great individual. Following up with past President Tim Palmer, we've had some great leadership these last couple of years, and looking forward to working with Michael in the future. Virginia was reappointed to its legislative position on one of NACD's committees. So John Peterson, the alternate from Virginia, and I will both be serving on that committee. John was also reappointed to the Urban Committee for NACD, and I'm glad John is still very active with us in NACD. The Southeast region meets monthly on the second Tuesday, and everybody is welcome to participate. We're putting out, Southeast puts out a great newsletter, which I've asked Kendall to share with everybody by the all district server. And I hope everybody will take the opportunity to read that newsletter. It's a great way to see what else is happening in the Southeast. Let's see. Next slide, I guess, Kendall. At the gathering this year, Virginia was recognized once again for its excellence in its training program. Also, we were recognized for 100% participation in membership in NACD. There's still a few districts who have not been able to join, pay their dues to NACD this year. I hope that can be changed. If there's an issue, please let us know so we can try to help you with it. but Virginia has received that recognition for quite a few years. Also recognized again this year were some excellent photos and posters submitted to the NACD annual poster and photo contest. And here you see a slide with the 3 top first place winners, and it's kudos to all the districts that participate in this. And I encourage you to continue to do so this year. It's great to see this national recognition for Virginia folks. I guess, what else, Kendall?
Sure, hopefully on your screen, this is actually Stewardship Week.
Oh, that's right, it is. So hopefully some of you are participating in that. It's healthy forests, healthy communities. All that information is available online at the NACD website. And for those directors who did not know this, anybody who is a member who has paid the dues at NACD is actually a member of NACD, and you have access to a lot of great stuff on a lot of great materials on the NACD website, like the Stewardship Week materials. There's also a members only section, which every director is able to access if you're interested. Also posted here in the slide are the themes for this year. I'm sorry, this year's poster themes and photo themes. So and the deadline dates are posted there as well. So please continue to support these great programs.
Would encourage you to pay attention to our NACD Facebook page and even ours this week. During Stewardship Week, we recently did a 3-session series of video creation workshop, and many districts created videos around this theme, which will be featured this week by NACD and the association.
Yeah, thank you, Kendall. Just some upcoming meeting dates. I mentioned the Southeast meeting. Like I said, anybody is welcome to participate in those calls. The summer board meeting is July 24th through 27th. I will be attending that. It will be an in-person session. The Southeast regional meeting is planned for Gulf Shores in Alabama, August 8th through the 10th. And there you see NACD's annual meeting scheduled for next year. And next summer's summer NACD board meeting and Southeast regional meeting is right now being planned to be held in Puerto Rico as a joint meeting, similar to what we did in Colonial Williamsburg a few years back. So if anybody has any questions about NACD activities, please let me know or contact John Peterson. Glad to see everybody here today. So thank you.
Kendall, could you put up that last slide again with the dates? Thank you, Stephen, for the NACD update. Just real quickly, folks, I'm gonna wrap it up with this last slide too. We had our quarterly board meeting already. We talked about the golf tournament May 19th. Also want you to pay attention to the August 24th, 26th dates. This is the Employees Association Graves Mountain Training, which will take place in person this year. I encourage you to speak to your district staff about attending based on their comfort level. I do know that Lynn Graves, who is our first vice president, is working hard to ensure that that is going to take place in a safe social distance environment. We have a lot of sessions outdoors. He has some great facilities to make that possible. So please encourage your staff. The other item that you don't see here that I want to quickly touch on is the annual meeting. So we've gotten quite a few questions about what's going on with the annual meeting. This was a year that the annual meeting was to take place on the eastern side of the state. That being said, we are still trying to figure out whether or not we are going to do a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting, or whether or not a hybrid meeting makes sense. Your second vice president, Wayne Davis, he is the chair of the annual meeting planning committee. He is working very closely with different directors and staff across the Commonwealth and the 47 districts to think about opportunities for the annual meeting. So stay tuned. I know Kendall is also working really hard to figure out what is the best way to go about this year. Things are changing every day. I know lots of folks, including myself, are now fully vaccinated, but you just don't know what's around the corner. So still a little bit of a confusing time, and it makes looking 6 months out really difficult. And annual meeting planning takes a lot of work. So stay tuned. We hopefully will have a decision for you around June timeframe, June and July. And so you'll be hearing more through the all district emails. Also, right now, we don't have a summer quarterly board meeting on the calendar. I think we're also trying to figure out whether or not we want to take the opportunity to have an in-person quarterly board meeting, same kind of thing. And so Kendall and I will be working on that and those dates and get those out to folks. Other than that, all I have left to say is that, you know, your association staff and your leadership, and I already mentioned, you know, Lynn Graves and Wayne Davis. We also have Don Wells still as our secretary and treasurer, still hanging in there. He'd been sick on and off, but he is still working really hard for the association. We heard from Stephen, of course, and then we do have our education foundation leadership group, Richard Chafin, Jim Gelson, John Peterson, all helping your education foundation to keep moving. We will continue to work really hard for all of you and to address issues and see you through. If you have any questions, please reach out to the staff. Always reach out to myself or your wonderful Area 1 chair and co-chairs. And I'm sure that they can help you, but I'm not going to take up any more space because I know there are some really good speakers on your agenda. Thank you for the time. And it's good to see everybody. Keep moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Joint effort, well done. Thank you for the information. Thank you for the work and keeping those informed. Jim Eccles is up next. I haven't seen Clyde Chrisman on the list. Jim, you got 5 minutes. Good luck.
5 minutes. Okay. Russ, do you want to go first? You want me to go ahead and start?
Actually, I'm Mr. Chairman. I'm Clyde Chrisman today. So
hi, Clyde. Welcome.
we've got the second team apparently. I apologize. Clyde was tied up, and Daryl's on vacation this week. We finally let Daryl take a few days off after probably the busiest year of his career. So he sends his regards, but he also doesn't send any regrets because he's certainly happy to be off for a few days. I just wanted to give you a few words in place of Clyde and then turn it over to Jim. I know Blair Gordon's on the line as well. And I think we've got a few other, Mark Holberg, I saw a few other DCR employees that will be participating with you throughout the morning. I also want to apologize in advance, Mr. Chair and President Franz, that I have to leave at 10. I can blame that both on Clyde and the governor's office. I have to participate in a meeting on his behalf with the governor's office. So I'll be saying goodbye to you at 10 o'clock. But as I think has been aptly said, I'm not going to take much of your time. This has been a highly unusual year. It's been a very successful legislative session. I think what we have done in the last decade or more is build the foundation to where we are today. We are taken seriously by the appropriators in the General Assembly. The programs that we oversee and implement are a keystone to meeting not only our water quality goals throughout the Commonwealth, but our water quality goals, particularly within the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And I think that what we have proven is that Virginia is getting a lot for its money. And so I think we can certainly ascribe, when you start to look at what the allocations have been to the Water Quality Improvement Fund over the last few years relative to what they were 5 to 7 to 10 years ago, we've made a lot of progress. And certainly with things such as VCAP, which is really looking at a different type of landscape than we have looked at before. I'm just very, very hopeful for the future and proud of the partnership that we've built with the districts over these many years. So congratulations to all. Honestly, it's the work that you all do that makes it really easy for us to recommend to the governor that he put a lot of money in his budget for these programs. So you already saw the what's going to be coming in terms of the fiscal situation for the upcoming program year beginning in 2022. As Kendall mentioned, we were very pleased to have what we think now will be in the base budget for technical assistance for the districts at the $4.5 million, which just is based on a $35 million program, but obviously there is going to be technical assistance for funds that are allocated above that amount. But having that base gives us some of the stability that we have been longing for, I think it's fair to say, for all these years. We're not quite there yet. You know, there's still a little bit of a roller coaster that we're riding in terms of this program, but certainly it doesn't go as high as it used to, and it doesn't go as low as it used to. Where things are starting to steady in terms of our agricultural BMP program, our VAX program, and the related work that we do with the districts and what you do with the various partners. I see my friend Emmett Hanger has joined us this morning. So I know I'm definitely not going to take much time because I know you'll want to hear more from him than you will from a deputy director at DCR. But I do want to turn the microphone, so to speak, over to Jim Eccles, who's going to give an update on the Soil and Water Division on behalf of Daryl. So thank you, Madam President and Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Russ, and everybody else. I'll try to be brief. Daryl gave me a long list of things to talk about. I'm going to rush through it. As most of you know, we've done a survey to gather information on best management practices. There was multiple agency survey cooperation with the Ag Business Council. The intent was to gather information on BMPs that are not currently being reported for the Chesapeake Bay model. Results are in. Unfortunately, we did not get as many responses as we had hoped. The cooperative extension is at this point working. They'll be verifying the information, and then we'll be deduplicating it, and that will allow us to report at an aggregated county level best management practices to the EPA that are currently not in our reporting system. As you know, the tillage survey we'd hoped to do has been postponed because of COVID. There were concerns about being able to meet with
I think we lost you, Jim.
Okay, am I back? Hello?
Yep, there you are. Thank you.
We've also delayed the cover crop survey because of that. NRCS and DCR have signed a data sharing agreement. The intent is to help gather information on best management practices that are out of lifespan. This is something that's entirely voluntary for the property owners. DCR will be offering contracts to districts to go out and do verification to see if these practices are still functioning so that they can be counted in the BMP database. There'll be opportunity for the landowners to get continuing conservation initiative cost share, or to sign up for RMPs. Chesapeake Bay bill updates. Virginia has developed a method for determining live stream from the office. We'll be using that. We also have a new initiative. We're going to be using about $2 million and $260,000 in technical assistance to target cattle producers who are small producers who have at least 20, but not more than 30 head of cattle. There'll be a number of districts, only a handful of districts that'll actually be involved in this. But the intent is to allow people to sign up on a first serve basis, so they're not competing for the standard dollars they've had to compete for in the past. And the intent is to bring in some of the small herds. It'd be interesting to see with this year's large allocation if there is a whole lot of interest in it, but that's part of the way things evolve. Agricultural tech. Many of you have been involved in the tech in the last couple of years, and we're getting ready to start the process again. There have been 14 suggestions that were tabled, 12 that were advanced. We'll be bringing in the subcommittees meeting in person this time. Many of the things were tabled was because we felt we needed to have in-person discussion. So we're bringing in-person meetings back for the subcommittees. At this point, we don't know if we'll be able to do in-person meetings for the full TAC committee. Obviously, we would like to do that. We'll have to wait to see what happens with COVID. We have a new portable fencing system that will allow people to have a more flexible fencing program. We're calling it WP2P. It'll be loosening the requirements about setbacks. Let's see, we've also increased the amount of money for our cost share to a cap of $150,000. And one other important change is we've reduced the requirements for participation in the cost share program from having had the land in farming from 5 years to 3 years. Let's see. Conservation planning certification, we've been working on that. We just did a course where 41 people were able to participate. There's still staff that are needing to complete their certification. The board last week just gave them a 60-day extension. Budget template. Budget template's been very important for helping us develop the budget we have this year for arguing with the General Assembly or explaining to the General Assembly what we need the money for. There'll be a training on March 16th. Pardon me, May 4th. May 4th to update people on the current budget template. And the budget template will be due to DCR on July 15th. For several years, Virginia's had a diversity, equity, and inclusion program underway. And we are about to start a program in cooperation with Virginia State to try to do a better job of reaching the underserved community. We have a budget of $250,000 for 2 years. We're hoping to have many on farm meetings, and we're asking districts and district staff to be joining those as much as possible. You'll be hearing more about this as the dates become more firm, but the intent is to try to reach the underserved community to help them become more involved in conservation in Virginia. Why don't I stop there, because that's enough.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Russ, we appreciate the update, and did a good job substituting for that other guy. Tell him we
What's his
missed
name?
you, but thank you all very much. So we'll go ahead then, if there are no more comments from you two, to Emmett, if he's on board.
Eric, I'm here.
Hi, young man. How about going ahead and clue us in on what's going on with legislation update?
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share a couple minutes with you all this morning. I know you all have a packed schedule and I'm not supposed to take too much of your time, so I'll make a couple comments. And then if y'all have any questions for me, I'll try to address those. But it's always a pleasure to talk with you all. It's generally more fun if we're around the table eating something though. And this
Amen.
virtual thing is something that I'm not particularly good at yet, but we're working at it. And of course, you had the experts there. Russ and I go back a long ways with this. And at any rate, I guess maybe 18 years ago, he made a presentation when I was on the agriculture committee, which is still on the agriculture committee. I don't chair it anymore. But saying, well, we need to focus on wastewater treatment upgrades. That'll cost about $1 billion. We need to focus on best management practices in agriculture. That'll cost about $1 billion. And then stormwater and urban runoff issues. He said, well, that's going to cost, we don't know, maybe $12 billion. So we've been working on this, recognizing that our most efficient ways of dealing with our goals, clean up the tributaries in the Chesapeake Bay, ultimately, we're to focus on those where you get the best value for the dollars expended. So we've worked obviously on wastewater treatment plant upgrades where it comes out of a pipe. And y'all been heavily involved in working through the many issues related to implementing best management practices for ag and forestry lands primarily. And y'all do a good job of that. So I really do appreciate it. And knowing that Russ and Jim are there talking to y'all and others that know a whole lot more, I know stuff, but it goes in and out. And then I forget not only what needs to be done, but what I've done in the past. But from the budget perspective this year, in large part to the fact that our economy was doing a little better than we thought it would, we kind of dialed back on our expectations as we entered the COVID. And fortunately, we have the budget has and the revenues have outperformed our predictions, not up to where we were at before we went into the COVID, but better than we expected. The other item, if you will, that has really helped us in balancing our budget and meeting the needs of the Commonwealth is the fact that the federal government still doesn't realize that they're broke, don't have any money. And so they've been sending us money. I don't know where they're getting it from. Well, I do have an idea of where they're getting some of it from, but borrowing from future generations, perhaps. But the COVID relief acts that we've had over the past year have helped us backfill. So we were able to build a budget this past year that I think adequately addressed the needs of the Commonwealth. And also in doing that, because we were outperforming our revenue projections, we were able to set aside some money, if you will, more money into our rainy day fund, more money into our revenue reserves, which this last budget that we put together that was just concluded with the reconvene session back in April, we're putting an additional $900 million into revenue reserves. So at the end of this budget cycle, if we stay on track, we should have over $2 billion set aside for contingencies for unexpected and potential or rainy days that may happen in the future. We're not out of the woods yet, but we are at this moment, at least, in a relatively comfortable position. But again, some of that is based on the fact that we have been receiving federal dollars and we're going to receive more federal dollars. So just in general, one of the budget amendments that I had this year was to require that the legislature be involved in the process more than it was over this past year. Now, I didn't mean that as a criticism of the administration, but it's a responsibility that we jointly share with the administration. So I felt it was important for those of us in the legislature to be involved because we're talking about several $billion that will be flowing in additional dollars to help backfill some of the needs and the problems that were created, not only at the state level, but with local government level and with businesses and individuals throughout the state. It turned out to be a good year for the environment and specifically for water quality issues. I carried 3 bills. One was focused, well, I carried more than 3 bills, but 3 related directly to your work or the work of cleaning up the bay. One, dealing with wastewater management, enhanced nutrient removal, and the this, as we went into the session, there was not a large expectation that this might be accomplished, but a lot of stakeholders got together around the table and worked this out. Well, sometimes they weren't around the table, they were virtual, but they got together and they worked it out. And I was pleased to be able to patron the bill that represented the work of this group. It's going to involve a significant additional reduction in nutrients from our wastewater treatment plant statewide. It involves a commitment on the part of the state of somewhere in the range of $300 to $400 million over the next 4 or 5 years, and from local service authorities in the range of probably another 500 million. So we're talking maybe 800 to 900 million dollars that we're committing to. And the good thing about that, of course, obviously, is the nutrient removal, but it also takes us down the road of meeting our goals more adequately, and to a certain extent, relieve some of the burden on the ag and forestry sector, because we're obviously counting very heavily on the ag and forestry sector, but it's only fair that everybody participate in this, and it is a good value for the dollars expended when we can take it out at point source where it's coming out of a pipe. So we were able to fund that this year. We put $100 million into that effort at the state level this year. I was pleased to get that in the budget, 50 million in cash and 50 million in bonds. We also, as far as the funding piece, which I'm sure you all have looked at, came up with a significant amount of funding, $65 million for our best management practices efforts, 25 million for from the local government fund, an additional roughly $10 million, and this is very important, obviously, and I'm sure y'all focused on it, for the technical assistance through the soil and water conservation districts primarily. So all of that is good, and the proof, of course, is in the pudding. And a report was just released recently, indicating that 2020 was quite a good year, where the people that you've been working with the incentives that are out there and the commitment from the ag and forestry sector, put a lot of new practices in place. In fact, in stream exclusion, and I heard Jim mention that there are a number of new ways that you can do that, and some of them are more cost effective than the old methods that had been approved in the past. So a lot of additional stream practices were put in place in 2020, and hopefully 2021 will be another great year as we move forward. As you'll recall, we had a little battle, pitched battle, not this past session, the session before, where it appeared we needed a more regulatory format, or at least the administration was looking at a more regulatory format. And we were successful in saying, hey, it works best if we do it through incentive-based programs on a voluntary basis. And I think that's a part of it. The money was available last year more adequately, and farmers and others stepped up and realized we got to meet those goals. So we're kind of getting serious about it, and the proof is in the pudding. It looks like we're making good progress, and I thank you all for that. 2 bills I had directly related to best management practices and things that y'all will be working on. One, I worked with Russ and other members of the administration on refundable tax credit focused primarily on precision agriculture and equipment to enhance those efforts. And originally there was a budget amendment of about 1.3 million in the budget to support this program, but it's a refundable tax credit, which will help some farmers who are a little bit uncertain about some of our tax incentives that were, or grants rather, that they will come to the table and work with this. Also carried another bill, which with Tony Wilt, for some enhanced credits or additional credits for people that are involved in resource management programs. Tony, Delegate Wilt, had been working last year on that, and he and I patroned identical bills this year, and we were able to get that through. There was a little bit of concern, hopefully that's being worked out. It was supposed to be limited to $2 million, and how we do that was questionable in terms of managing that program, but at least it will be another tool out there to provide incentives for individuals to work on that. Have a meeting coming up next week. I got the Chesapeake Bay Commission. I've served on the Chesapeake Bay Commission now for a number of years. I've chaired it on 2 occasions, 2 different years. And so I'm anxious to get to the table with our counterparts in Maryland and Pennsylvania, see where we're at and see what needs to be done to keep us on track to meet our goals. So with that, I'd be pleased to respond to any questions you might have or any thoughts that you all might have going forward that you want to share with me. I will say that I've in my other life, my real life, I've acquired a couple of properties over in Mount Solon. I like to rehab old houses that are on Mossy Creek, right at the headwaters of Mossy Creek. So I'm gonna have to get involved myself in managing a nice stream over here, because I like to see some trout in there that I could fish out of there and eat. So at any rate, Rick, I'll turn it back to you unless anyone has some questions.
All right, thank you so much, Emmett, for your work and support. Conjuring up help when you need it to get these things through. Are there questions from anybody? We'll allow a couple of minutes if you have them. Well, if not, just send donations. He'll take them.
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
He really likes coconut pie, I'll tell you right now, among others. But thank you so much, Emmett. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
You bet, Rick. Well, I look forward to next year. Maybe we'll be able to be in person and we'll have a piece of coconut pie.
You're on. You're
all
on.
right.
Let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you all for the good work that you all do. It's appreciated. And it looks like y'all are on track to be successful. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Edwin, it's your turn. NRCS, if you don't know it by now, when I host a meeting, I go by first names. And so you're loose. It's your time.
All right, good morning, and let me know when you can see my screen.
I can't see it yet. Oh,
All right.
I see something happening.
All right, so good morning, everyone. So good to see so many familiar faces. I'm going to be doing a presentation with Kathy Holmes, so I know we're running a little bit behind on the agenda. I'm going to try to go through the information that I have to be able to keep up with time. So thank you all for the opportunity to join the meeting today. I have met many of you through the past few months. I've been on the job for about 7 months as a new state conservationist in here. Kathy asked me to just do a brief intro, just to let you know who I am, where I'm coming from. Before being the state conservationist in Virginia, I was working in a national office as the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative program manager, working with the state from New York all the way to Minnesota, primarily managing programs on water quality. I'm original from Puerto Rico, and I've been with the agency for about 15 years. Been really fortunate to work with this great agency for the past 15 years. Work all over the country, from Puerto Rico all the way to California, in the Midwest, Nebraska, Maine, and now I'm here in Virginia. So really happy to be able to be here in Virginia with all of you. Really appreciative of the opportunity to work with the soil and water conservation districts and the welcoming that you guys have done since I started in here. We have established a really good communication. Really appreciative of Dr. Tyree, continued support and communication efforts to get me up to speed and getting me in all of these meetings. Also really appreciative of the leadership that Kathy Holm has provided to Area 1. I wanted to take the opportunity and briefly mention that we're hiring. So keep this in mind, please. We have about 21 positions out there. Some of them already have been filled within the state, but we still have some opportunities out there in USA Jobs. So if you know about highly qualified individuals, please let them know that NRCS is hiring. There's a list of opportunities in here, and I will make sure that I share this presentation with you later so that you can have it. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to thank you again for welcoming me here. When I started on the third week on the job, I had the opportunity to join one for the Smith.
Uh-oh.
Certainly a highlight. In regards to NRCS programs, there is a lot going on, as you have seen through the years. These past 2 years has been really challenging. However, the agency have been able to really keep up with conservation and what we do best. There's a lot of information on this slide, and it's on purpose because it's just a report that we put together, but I'm going to highlight a few things. And those things are how many applications or contracts we currently have. We have about 24 contracts that are active. This number change as contracts are being completed, perhaps canceled, etc. But that total up to about $131 million. This summary is for FY20. Keep that in mind too. On FY20, we obligated about $24.6 million on EQIP funds over 441 contracts. There's a lot of information on top conservation practices. I'm not going to go over that information right now because a lot of you are really familiarized with that information, but just want to let you know that FY20 was a challenging year, but really productive for the agency. FY21, looking into now and into the future, we receive about $23.3 million for EQIP, and we have already received about 1,208 applications in the system. Our due date for applications was last Friday, so that closed out. I think it was for CSP. I will check in a second to see what the due date was, but we have about 1,200 applications in the system. Soil health is something that has been mentioned previously. Really important that I mentioned that we have put together or set aside about $300,000 for soil health, for CIG, for the Conservation Innovation Grant. That grant is out there for request for proposals. So if you are interested, or if you know someone who will be interested in doing projects and innovation within soil health in Virginia, please assist us to promote this. CSP is another big program in the state. As you know, this is a program that rewards landowners for doing a great work on your land, and we have about $12 million, almost $12 million in the state on CSP. The easements programs are big as well in here, and they're ongoing. And we have about $1.4 million in easement programs and several applications that we have received in the state. A lot of them add a lot of acres into easements for conservation. Some programs updates in regard to Virginia. As you may have seen, some field offices are currently working on local working groups meetings. That is just to gather information for FY22 to make sure that we got the best information that we need for us to do implementation of programs at the local level in FY 2022. The deadlines, as I mentioned earlier, the EQIP, the ranking deadline was April 23rd, so the last week. It's already passed, and then the EQIP one for applications is April 30th, so we still have a few more days for applications. CIG, the opportunities out there. RCPP, we received a few RCPP proposals in the state, and you may have seen some of the funding announcements that are coming out within the national office on proposals that NRCS will be funding in Virginia. So that's a huge congratulations to the state, because RCPP proposals bring a lot of funding, a lot of opportunities, and a lot of conservation into the state. State Technical Committee, I will mention that in a few seconds as well, but MOA, I know that DCR mentioned briefly what the MOA that NRC has put together, working with DCR for data sharing. We're almost to the process, to the part of the process that we can start working on implementation. Right now, we're doing the data runs at the national level to make sure that we can gather all the information that we need from the national office, and then we want to start working on a pilot to make sure that the MOA is implemented effectively before we actually launch these to the state level. We're also working on the memorandums of agreement between NRCS and the Soil and Water Conservation Districts, the MOAs, and the funded cooperative agreements. You will see that we will be sending information in the near future to either coordinate a call with these with Soil and Water Conservation Districts and our local offices to get everybody on the same page. We sent the template last week to the Grants and Agreements Division to check if that's the best template that we can use in the state after receiving feedback from some local conservation districts in the state. So stay tuned. We will keep you up to date on that one. The next State Technical Committee meeting is scheduled for May 27 at 10 a.m. And you can see the list of partners in here. Since I've been here, we have been able to invite additional partners to the State Technical Committee, and they will be joining. All I will say is that it would be great if we have more soil and water conservation local participation in this upcoming technical committee meeting. The technical trainings, I think the Soil and Water Conservation District team members hit really hard on this, the importance of the challenges that we faced through COVID and how we overcome those challenges and how we have been able to adapt to technology and also utilize these to target a bigger audience around the state for training. A lot of trainings are partnership trainings that we have done and individual trainings that we do with our state staff. So it's great to see that Soil and Water Conservation District and NRCS are really working together, coordinating and providing training to their staff to keep everybody up to speed on the technical aspects. So thank you all for your leadership on that part. Soil health, it goes back to the importance of these and how you have seen that the new administration and department and everybody else is putting a lot of emphasis on soil health in addition to climate change or climate smart and many other things that are coming down the pipeline. Really critical that we in Virginia continue to do the best that we have done. We have a plan in place for soil health. The recent Soil Health Coalition meeting was held yesterday. Great discussions were happening in there. And there's a lot of moving projects that are upcoming here to Virginia. The CIG grant has $300,000 for soil health innovation. So keep that in mind. As I mentioned earlier, it will be great if we can get several applicants for that grant. There's a few other information on new partnership and grants that were awarded. When I send these out, you can review those. I will mention one of them that we provided a grant to Virginia Tech and others to hire technical specialists. Agreements, and this is really important. This is how NRC has used not only financial assistance and technical assistance, but also conservation technical assistance to do what we do best, conservation. And this shows that if we are able to do conservation technical assistance, we can target a bigger audience. This is multiple entities that we have provided funding or addressed or put together an agreement with. And you can see that a lot of them are to either bring staff to the state, like the biologists that we have on board, and we're revising that agreement to expand it in the future, enhance technical assistance, shared forestry liaison position. So when you look at these highlighted areas, is either technical assistance, additional capacity or staffing, or just assisting within the state on what we do. So it's really important that we continue to do that here in this. That's one of the goals that I'm working on. Looking into the future, and this is some of the things that I would like to do as I move forward and continue to be working with all the partners in the state. Something that is really critical for me, having worked with the tribes in California, in the Midwest, and in Maine, is to try to establish a good relationship with the tribes in here and be able to work hand in hand with them. So the government to government relationship could be in assistance and expand it here in Virginia. Evaluate the benefit of demonstration farms. And this is something that through COVID is a challenge, but if you look at the effectiveness of demonstration farms, having a lot of landowners on site and talking about their experiences and how conservation is working on their land is critical. And we would like to make sure that we have that here in Virginia to a certain extent. In the Great Lakes Basin, I have mentioned this to some of you before, they have a demonstration farm network that has demonstration farms in New York all the way to Minnesota for different things, forestry, ag practices, water quality practices, etc. And then also explore opportunities. We go back to soil health. There's a great research that was done in the Midwest in the Great Lakes Basin, making a connection between soil health and water quality. And that's something that we could do within the Chesapeake Bay to make sure that everything that we're doing, improving water quality with our conservation efforts, how it has an impact on soil health. That's something that I would like to see in the state. Edge of the field monitoring, this makes a connection to soil health as well. And what I mentioned earlier, having these stations in place, which we have some, allows and provides a lot of different benefits. You can see here that will allow us to and assist us with practice effectiveness, decision-making for practices that may be more effective than others, help with the ranking tools. You know, these practices are working effectively, these ones are not. So there's a lot of benefit of having these. These pictures are from a station in Wisconsin that you can see individuals, landowners. We have USGS, we have NRCS, and we have other institutions like Purdue and University of Wisconsin, Green Bay on site, doing the installation and then evaluation. And the last thing I will mention is I have been working with the national team to develop this type of map. This is a Chesapeake Bay map showcasing outcomes within the Bay. In this case, you have two practices. On the left, waste storage facilities, and on the right, you have grass waterways. And the different colors tells you how many of these practices have been installed on those Hub 12 watersheds. And you can see that depending on where you are, I still get into another watersheds in Virginia because I'm new here, but you can see that some of the watersheds are critical in the state, may have a higher or denser color. That means that there's more of those practices being installed in there. This type of map are interactive. You can see from 2010 all the way to 2020 how practices have been installed and how the changes have happened. So using this type of map for different practices allows to target conservation and also showcase what we're doing and how we're doing it and to what level to partners and others. And with that, the only thing, last thing that I have is just the 3 questions that I've been asking all my team members and partners. You know, what are we doing right? What do we need to do better? And what is our biggest opportunity here in Virginia? You don't have to address any of these questions now, but you can send me an email or we can have a one-on-one conversation. I would really like to hear how we can improve business or continue to do what we're doing best in this state. Once again, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this morning. It's really a pleasure to have an opportunity to work with you and to expand our partnership here in this state. I think, Kathy, you are next, so I'm gonna stop sharing my presentation and mute myself. It's a pleasure seeing you all, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Can
Hi,
let me
Kathy.
know- hi, Rick, how you doing?
Good.
Great. Can you let me know when you see my screen? Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. All right, I will try to make up some time. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kathy Home, Assistant State Conservationist for Field Operations here in Area 1. I just wanted to briefly touch on the conservation work being done here in the field offices despite the pandemic. And first, I want to express how proud and appreciative I am of the work being done by NRCS and district field office staff in the face of multiple challenges this year that several people have already mentioned. It has been a tough year, but conservation work has still gone forward. A big thank you to all field staff for persevering and delivering for our landowners. So now I'm just going to show you a little snapshot of NRCS numbers. These are active contracts and dollars being spent currently by the field office. These represent active and ongoing conservation projects here in Area 1. And this is a snapshot of current EQIP applications. As was mentioned previously, our ranking deadline was this past Friday, April 23rd. So currently we're waiting for pre-approvals from our state office. These represent potential projects in addition to the projects you already saw ongoing in Area 1. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight some of the unique conservation projects that are happening in the NRCS field offices here in Area 1. So I asked each district conservationist to send me a couple of photos and some information about projects they were particularly proud of. And anyway, so this is what we're going to cover next. So first, I want to touch on the Verona field office. Of course, Charlie Ivins is a district conservationist there, and he sent me some information about the Craigsville Prison project. This is a very large, extensive grazing project that's being planned for Craigsville for the prison for approximately a 250 cow-calf herd. The cattle that are grown here are being used in the prison food service system. And because Craigsville is a maximum security prison, its own prisoners aren't allowed to work outside on this project, but prisoners from other prisons are. So here are a couple of before photos taken at the prison site. Of course, in the foreground, you can see the plywood cattle crossing here, which will change. And you can see the prison tower in the background. And then in the foreground, you can see the cattle kind of creating a muddy mess over there. In terms of the conservation planning for this project, you can see there's going to be total extreme exclusion, rotational grazing system, and this really is a true partnership project with the partners listed over there on the right. I'm not going to read them to you, but as you know and are well aware, Headwaters Soil and Water Conservation District applied for and is administering a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant to pay for the practice implementation. NRCS is providing technical assistance, design and survey, etc. And then here is just an overall, I know it's hard to read, but this is a conservation plan map that shows you what the system is going to look like once it's fully implemented. And I hope to be able to show after pictures in a coming meeting. All right, next we're going to go to the Harrisonburg office. Of course, Corey Williams is a district conservationist there. These are some photos of a bioreactor project at Peyton and Myrna Yancey's farm. And they are at the headwaters of Smith Creek. And that is the Smith Creek of our showcase watershed, Smith Creek. The spring on the Yancey farm is contaminated with nitrates. It's up to about 6 to 7 parts per million. That in turn is a significant source of nitrate pollution in Smith Creek as a whole. So a bioreactor was installed by Ridge to Reefs. They're a nonprofit organization. And in the left corner, at least in my left corner, you can see the footprint of the bioreactor, which is approximately 3 foot deep. That bioreactor footprint then is lined, and then wood chips are placed on top, and then it's topped with soil. The wood chips help promote the growth of helpful bacteria, which convert the nitrate in the water to nitrogen gas. And then there are flow control pipes that help water flow in and out of the reactor to be treated. So the critical point here is that data from 2020 shows that the nitrate levels of 6.24 parts per million coming into the bioreactor and 0.24 parts per million are flowing out. So this is a very efficient and inexpensive way to treat nitrate. On the left-hand side of this slide, you can see a completed photo of the completed bioreactor that has the soil and the trees. And on the right-hand side, you can see some photos of the tree planting that was held in November. And this was to replace some of the trees that were taken out when they actually installed the cell for the bioreactor. Now we're moving to the Strasburg field office. Brent Barito is a district conservationist there. And these are photos taken from RSP Enterprises in Clark County. This is one of 2 farms that was actually filmed by NRCS, by our national headquarters film crew, for their Conservation at Work film series, which they have posted at farmers.gov. And anyone can go on to the farmers.gov site and look at the video library and look at common NRCS practices that have been filmed all across the nation. So we're going to have some good examples here from Virginia. So RSP Enterprises has it all. They have active CSP and CREP contracts. They currently have a 44-acre farm and ranch land protection easement, and they have a new easement, an agricultural land easement in process, which is going to add an additional 196 acres that hopefully will close this year. So last but not least, we have the Lexington field office, of course, with Charlie Simmons as a district conservationist. This is an example of a regional conservation partnership project between NRCS, DCR, and Natural Bridge Soil and Water Conservation District. This is a small grazing project, but it was basically made affordable to the landowner through the RCPP project. So I was trying to hurry, and I think I did an okay job with that. That's it for me. I thought you would all appreciate getting out in the field today, if only virtually. Take it away, Rick.
All right, Kathy, thank you so much. Job well done. We appreciate you guys and their work. Are there any questions for either Kathy or Edwin? Okay, well, again, thank you guys very much and all those that work together. We've got scheduled a 5-minute break, and I'm due for a couple-minute break. So let's, it's 10:30 according to mine. So in 5 minutes, we will crank this thing back up. Thank you.
One I'm most familiar with, which is Long Meadow. I moved the map, you saw that. But if I touch it or hover over it with my arrow and I click on it, the entire stream segment highlights in this bright blue, and this little box comes up that gives me all the water quality assessment information that was provided by the assessor at the time, who was James Shiflett, my predecessor. And then if you scroll down in this box, you can read all sorts of information, including the location of this tributary, which is Long Meadow Run from its headwaters down to where it meets Christians Creek. You can read which monitoring stations had data that were used in this assessment. And if I pull it down, I get information about what are the impairment causes. We see it's E. coli and temperature impairment. So this is very informative if you're looking for specific water quality information that may be found in the 2020 integrated report. And you can go anywhere in Virginia to find that information. Okay, I also want to show you in addition to the water quality assessment layers, I'm going to uncheck the rivers layer real quick. We also have down here a little farther, you can view the actual 2021 monitoring stations that DEQ is visiting currently in this current calendar year. And I'm going to zoom out a few times. And we're looking pretty much at the city of Stanton and over to Charlottesville there, but all these points on the map represent water quality monitoring stations that DEQ is performing monitoring at. You can click on a station and you will be able to read which measurements are going to be taken there. For example, this one that I clicked on at the Middle River, it's going to be nutrient sampling and bacteria sampling. And if you wanted, you could add the box that clicks the Soil Water Conservation District layers on, and you can see in which district the monitoring is occurring and where. Okay. Let me see, one other thing I wanted to show you. I'm going to turn district layer, I'll leave that one on. We'll go down here to Natural Bridge and zoom in a bit. There's also layers for TMDLs on here. Let's see where the implementation watersheds are in the Natural Bridge area. You can easily view those outlined in orange. And if you, oops, it's going to give me Natural Bridge first. But if you click in here, you can read which implementation watersheds are highlighted. So it's really helpful if you want to visually see what's going on in your district boundaries. I'm going to minimize this layers list and show you really quickly that there is the ability to draw and edit on a map, or not edit, I should say draw and mark up. But let's say you are a district employee in Natural Bridge and you all want to designate a point on the map right around here in this implementation area. Oh, hold on a second. Let me make that smaller. I'm going to click undo. Let's say you have something going on here at this point. You can make a point on the map. You can also edit and make a write something about a certain location onto the map. We're going to say Marsh Farm will be this point. And you've edited that and added it. And then you can go ahead and actually print this map out to make it use of it for future presentations, or if you have a document that you want to create for your district. And of course, something's not going to work very fast. But what I'm showing you here is if you hit print and you wait a while, it will give you the ability to select different types of print, portrait, landscape, but then you can do a JPEG picture file, PDF, all sorts of different types and formats. And then you can save this printout. After it's created, you can save it and make use of it as you'd like to. And that is pretty much all I wanted to show you as far as the mapper. Keep in mind, as I said, there is an open data portal here on the Virginia Environmental Data Hub as well, where you can download data sets for use in your own ArcGIS. All sorts of data sets are available here. And once again, remember that there is a FAQs and help page you can visit, where there is actual training videos on how to use the environmental data mapper as well as information on how to download your open data portal shape files and other GIS data. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll be happy to take any questions, or you can contact me directly about the assessment.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. I thought maybe with, what was the FAQ, you were trying to say something about me, but I appreciate you not. But a wealth of information there, and we hope the staff can use that. Any other questions or comments from the group for Sarah? Okay. Megan, must be your turn.
Thank you, Rick. I'm going to try to help us make up some time, so I'm going to go fast and furious. Put your seatbelts on, folks. It's going to be a ride. My job right now is to tell you a little bit about the VACDE, Virginia Association of Conservation District Employees. As many of you know, the Employees Association has an established mission and vision, and we also have an established set of bylaws and function under an executive committee and officer team. The VACDE provides service awards to members for lengths of service to districts, and this year we presented 27 awards to employees for their service, ranging from 5 to 35 years of service. I have 2 Soil and Water District employees, which I would like to recognize for receiving service awards this past year. For receiving his 25-year service award, I'd like to recognize John Kaler at the Headwaters District. Thank you, John, for your service to the Headwaters District and the state of Virginia. And no longer working for the Soil and Water District, but certainly very hardworking over her 35-year tenure, was Amanda Campbell with the Lord Fairfax District, who received 35 years of service pen. That means, folks, she's been working since 1985, and that's more years than many of our Conservation District employees in Area 1 have existed on the planet. So we really do appreciate Amanda's efforts at the Lord Fairfax District, and I know she's missed. Moving on, the VACDE also recognizes an employee with the Outstanding Conservation District Professional Award. This is a nomination process, and this year the VACDE recognized Brandon Blevins, a conservation specialist with the Clinch Valley Soil and Water District. So again, if you'd like to recognize a Soil and Water District employee in your area, that is a nomination process, so be on the lookout for that this fall. The Employees Association does offer trainings, and as was already alluded to during the VASWCD report, the Employees Association is hopeful that we will be able to conduct an in-person training August 24th through 26th at Graves Mountain Lodge. We have not finalized our training topics yet, so if you have special requests, please do let me know, as I serve as the Area 1 representative for the VACDE. I also would like to take the opportunity to thank the VASWCD Educational Foundation and the Beals Fund for their continued support of the Employees Association and our training efforts. Also, I want to take the opportunity to put a plug in about fundraising. As you are surely aware, the VACDE is a key partner with the association's Educational Foundation, and we work to support their largest fundraiser, the auction that takes place at the annual meeting. So folks, it is not too early to start thinking about soliciting items for the December auction. Please do, as you're out and about, as things start to open up and you venture out, please do consider picking up an item for donation to the association's auction. In addition, I want to take the opportunity to remind you that the Employees Association administers a benevolence fund, which is available to all employees who are paid members of the VACDE, and this fund is available to support employees in a time of need. If you have an employee who might be in need of some funding from this, please do check out the association's webpage under the VACDE link, or call me or email me, and I'll be happy to direct you in the right spot for that. As you are aware, just as the association is part of a larger organization, the Southeast Conservation District and the NACDE, as is the Employees Association, we are members of the Southeast Conservation District Employees Association, as well as the National Association of Conservation District Employees. And so we are happy to share information all across the nation. And we too have fundraisers occasionally. If anyone is interested, the Southeast is doing a raffle for a Ring doorbell system, and the drawing will be in August of 2021. So if you're interested in supporting the Southeast Association and interested in getting a ticket for that Ring doorbell raffle, please let me know. Finally, a quick plug for if you're not yet a member, or if your district has not yet paid for its employees' memberships, please do consider doing that. Our membership year is the calendar year, and so we did start over with new membership in January, and Area 1, based on the numbers I'm looking at, seems to be doing very well with, as of mid-February, we had 26 members. So we have a upcoming meeting, the Employees Association's upcoming meeting, at which point we'll get a membership update, and you may be hearing from me if I think you might have missed the membership update and need to get your membership in. But thank you for all you do to all the Conservation District employees who are on here. Thank you to directors for your support of your Conservation District employees. And please reach out to me as your Area 1 representative if I can assist you in any way.
All right, thank you, Megan, so much. Key words, I may be reaching out to you. We appreciate your work, Megan. Okay, moving on. Mary, are you ready for Soil Health Coalition?
Yeah, thank you, Rick. And I'll try and make it quick here too, because I know, yeah, time is of the essence. So thanks for inviting me to speak today and share a little bit about the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. And you've heard it from several folks today, a little bit about the coalition and the meeting that happened yesterday. That was kind of our kickoff meeting and the first quarterly meeting of the coalition. But as a little background, the Virginia Soil Health Coalition was started by NRCS, Virginia NRCS, as a way to educate and encourage soil health building practices and to identify and collaborate with allies in this work. And you heard Dr. Martinez mentioned, really the impact there with funding from NRCS over the years and all of those partnership efforts that were a little more informal, but really had a big impact. And so as soil health is really, has gained a lot of momentum in recent years, with especially related to co-benefits and a diversity of partners and interests. There's interest in growing and expanding the coalition and really building some formal coordination into it with support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. So that brought me on board in January as the coordinator and really tasked with increasing this coordination across the broad network of partners across the state and building out the network and thinking through what is needed and what could leverage the work that's really happening on the ground already and what other opportunities there are. So we're still in the early phases of this aligning and thinking through opportunities, action items, next steps. But right now there is this big focus on fostering communication and knowledge exchange to really build that base of collaboration that we'll move forward with. And there was some great momentum that came out of yesterday's meeting. I think there was about 80 folks there, and some really great insight on what's happening and opportunities for more conversation and more education and connecting the dots. So, that's kind of what I'm going to be tasked with out of here, is thinking through what came out of that and then bringing that to our steering committee, which Kendall is on. And so she'll be representing this association and the districts. But we really want to hear from partners on what the opportunities are, what would be beneficial from this coalition format, and how we can be helpful. And so, that's what I want to put out to all of you is how the coalition can be helpful to Area 1 and the districts more broadly. And would invite any of you to connect with me. I'll throw my email in the chat so you have it. And also reach out to Kendall and just ways that it can be helpful. And I will share one thing that, you know, at the end of the meeting yesterday, we shared was a one pager with the coalition's vision, mission, and kind of our common ground principles that we come together around, and offer the opportunity for any organization to submit their logo in support of that. And we'll share that up on our partnership page on our website. So I'll share a link to that PDF in the chat, as well as our website that is kind of in a soft launch right now, but would welcome any events that any of the districts are hosting. And I have a lot of association events up there, but an opportunity to just kind of further that coordination as well. So, and if anyone has any questions, happy to answer those as well.
Okay, don't be bashful.
And
But
there's
Mary, thank you for your work. Keep us informed, and we look forward to your input working together.
thanks, Rick.
All right. Let's move on to district updates. And Lord Fairfax is the first one I have listed. And is there a spokesperson for that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Rick. This is Dick.
All right.
Dick Hoover.
See you, Richard. Go right ahead, sir.
All right, sir. After, just to say that after obligating a record amount of funding for the 2020 program year, that was about $3.5 million. We were sailing through our program year 21 when the unexpected and high cost increases of construction materials compelled a number of our producers to abandon their approved cost share projects, feeling there would not be enough time in fiscal year 21 in which to re-obligate these sums. And lest they be lost, Lord Fairfax has transferred $150,000 and $50,000 to the Loudoun and Thomas Jefferson districts, respectively. The board approved this transfer on April 11th. We expect that some of these producers will reapply next year. Finally, we are fortunate to have taken on board our new administrative specialist. I believe some of you have already discovered Sarah Fleming, who comes to us from the Shenandoah County government. And we're really happy to have her. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate y'all's work and support. Carry on. Next, we'll have Shenandoah Valley spokesperson, please.
Charlie, did you want me to cover this? Okay.
Megan, this is Kevin. Yeah, I'll defer to you. And just from my perspective, first of all, thank y'all for all the work y'all do in the Shenandoah Valley District. And Megan, go ahead and give a report for us. Thank you.
Okay, staff continue to work in a hybrid schedule with in-office and telework days. We have hosted one rain barrel workshop, and we will be hosting several additional rain barrel workshops in the coming weeks. We too have been busy with VAX program implementation, and we completed our spring dam inspections, and we'll be working on getting our iFlow systems reworked and functional with some new system upgrades. And we have been doing some in-person as well as virtual education activities, and are excited to be getting out in the field with students in the coming weeks.
Are you going to stop there, Megan?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. Well, I know you guys are busy, and we thank you very much. A good, lively report. Kevin, it's nice to know you're live too.
Hey, I thought I'd chime in. I just didn't want to interrupt your perfection. So otherwise, I'm
Oh,
going to keep.
yes. Oh, yes, I hear you. Good to have you. Okay, Headwaters, Rachel.
Thanks, Rick. I will also keep our update brief to account for time. Our staff is continuing to work on a telework basis since we are co-located with our USDA Service Center. Our office is at a 50% staffing capacity, and then we are rotating telework days on a case-by-case basis. As of April, we have obligated 93% of our fiscal year 21 VAX allocation. A big shout out to our technical staff who have been working hard on over 100 applications received for the VAX program in PY 21, and 25 of those have been approved stream exclusion practices. So certainly full steam ahead here at the Headwaters office. COVID has not slowed down conservation work for us. On the flood control dam side, just want to point out that the district contracted services at Schnabel Engineering and Zion Marine for a mid-level gate installation at Inch Branch, where they performed an underwater install and successfully equipped the riser with a new 10-inch gate along with the new access ladder. That was something to see. We got some interesting underwater camera pictures, which are wonderful to see. If you have questions related to that, reach out to our office staff if your district has kind of looking towards something along those lines as well. Also for education, we're excited to have in-person presentations back on our calendars again. We have on the week of April 12th, we had our first in-school presentations in person with Waynesboro Public School fourth graders, and we look forward to seeing that continue. And Rick, that's all I have to share.
Well, great, thank you. And again, staff is really working hard. It's nice to have 4 people in the office now, sometime each day. And this COVID thing is interesting, but again, our staff's doing a great job working together, getting the work done. And I'll echo the thoughts of Richard that these cost increases have really threw a bee in the bonnet, that's all I can say. But we're working through as best we can, and I know y'all are too. Natural Bridge, who's our spokesperson? Do we have a report from Natural Bridge? Okay, let's move on to Mountain.
Okay, I'm going to be the spokesperson for Mountain. I'm Lori Baldwin, the office administrator. Ms. Ford, our chair is on today, but if I miss anything, she can chime in. But we had talked over some of the points that we wanted to bring up, just like everyone else. We have muddled through the pandemic, and we wanted to bring up that, you know, back in our country, you know, a lot of the people wanted to get away from the big cities. So we had more absentee landowners back at, you know, their farms, and we had really increased calls, increased business during this whole time. You know, everyone else talked about how difficult it was to get out with people, some of the other districts, but with us, it was increased because we had more interest with people being back here on their farms away from the cities and all. So that's why in the last year, we spent our whole million allocation dollars, and this fiscal year, we've already spent 99% of our BMP allocation dollars. So keeps a small staff really busy. We have equipment program with litter spreaders, no-till seeders, weed wipers, pasture drags, and those are busy this time of year. We also handle getting ready to start multi-floor rows program for Bath County that we handle for them. I know Rachel is going to speak on the Envirothon. Mountain was co-hosting Area 1 Envirothon. So I'll let her talk about that later on and where we're at with that. I do want to put a plug in also. We've been taking, advantage of all virtual trainings and anything that we could grab. This has been the one great thing about virtual is I did participate in the video creation workshop, which I'm hoping to use that to get out into the field more, to beef up some pictures and videos. To one of the things that we want to do in our neck of the woods is to beef up our website, brochures, that kind of thing. And I think that really was a great workshop to provide to districts. So I just wanted to thank the Virginia Association for putting that on, and really wanted to thank Bonnie for all of her work too at the association for helping us with education and all of our needs. So I just wanted to put a plug in and thanks. And if I missed anything, Ms. Ford, let me know.
I can't believe Ellen's that quiet, but Lori, nice job. Thank you very much for your report. Do we have someone representing Mountain Castles?
Yes, sir. Here with us today is Jeff Mutter. That was me. I'm the conservation technician for Mountain Castles. I believe Tim Miller is also on the call as well. So just real quickly, our district this year is, also operating on a hybrid schedule like many districts. So, for most of our staff, we've been splitting time between home and office, but we're getting to the point where we're starting to come back to the office a little bit more, which has been great for, improving our productivity. But, as far as signups go for our VAX program, for this year, it's been a little tough for our district. We have seen a dramatic decrease in signups, well, for the most part, but and then some of the signups that we have had have been smaller projects, so it's been tougher for us to allocate more of the funding and reach our allocation goals. But we still have a couple signups that we're working through right now, and hopefully we'll get funded here next at the next board meeting and help us get a little bit closer to that goal. But as far as everything else goes, it's been business as usual. For our dams, we're still maintaining those at high quality, and we actually have the remote monitoring systems being installed right now, which is great. So we're really appreciative of DCR for helping us get those in our district and getting those installed. As far as the educational side of things go, Tim has been doing an awesome job despite the challenges that he's had in front of him with the pandemic, and just been killing it. And as far as some opportunities that we've had, Tim recently was awarded a Appalachian Trail Community Grant, which we received $16,000 for supplies and classroom materials to help build raised beds for elementary schools and to work with first and second graders. And I believe as of last week, all 8 raised beds have been constructed, and we are planning to start planting with first graders this week. So absolutely a really cool deal with that grant, and being able to work with students outside, especially under these circumstances. So just overall, just an awesome grant with that. So, but other than that, I mean, that's about it. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Jeff. Thank you. It's good to hear your enthusiasm about working with kids. That's great. And the rest of us too. Are there any other reports? We were looking for somebody from Natural Bridge. Is there no one available still? Okay. We assume you're getting it done too. Well, you guys helped make up a lot of time. We're actually ahead of schedule. Business items is next on our agenda. And the first item I have listed is approval of the winter business meeting 11/19/19 or 2020. It's in front of us on our screen. Hopefully you had a chance to review. The floor is open.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve those minutes.
I'll second that.
Oh, great. Motion and second.
Can you please state your name so we know who made the motion and who seconded?
Ellen Ford seconded it. I had read it carefully and found no reason not to.
Motion by Charles Newton.
All right, thank you. Now, you should have a box somewhere, either in your participants or your reactions. I think mine's in the reactions. If you approve this motion, either hit your yes or green check mark so it can be recorded, please, right now.
Yes.
Right. And you can say it. That's good. Thank you, Richard. Okay, have we got an official record on how many voted yes?
I'm only seeing a couple use the participant tab. Let me check the reactions here.
Yeah, I'm on the reaction. My participant wouldn't let me do it for
I
some
could get to
reason.
that tab. I am not seeing any reactions, but they might have faded away at this time. You can also use a voice vote too, Rick, as well.
Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, the ones I see the checks are recorded for sure. All right, let me do another way. All those that don't approve signify by saying aye. Okay, hearing none, they're approved. Thank you. The next item of agenda is environmental update. Miss Rachel's going to take care of that, please.
Thanks, Rick. So as Lori mentioned earlier, we are just wrapping up Envirothon for this year. We had a virtual competition where Area 1 combined with Area 2 to host a combined virtual competition. Our teams just finished taking their test this past week. We are having a score reveal tomorrow evening, Wednesday, the 28th at 7 p.m. to our teams to announce which of those from Area 1 and also Area 2 will be moving on to the state competition. Want to thank I know some of you on this call were volunteered as oral presentation judges. We thank you for your assistance in volunteering for that. I know it looked different this year of having to watch presentations, video presentations and PowerPoints, not what folks have been used to previously, but we thank you for adjusting to the times with the rest of us and helping to provide feedback to our teams for those that will be moving on to the state competition. Area 1 had 3 teams participate, so a little bit down considering the virtual format. We are hopeful to see more teams participate at Area next year when hopefully we can have some sort of in-person competition. And then as the association staff and board mentioned earlier, that states will also be virtual as well, and they are looking for volunteers. So certainly reach out to them if you're interested in volunteering for that event. And Rick, that is all I have to report.
All right, thank you, Rachel. Any questions or comments? It's a great contest. We all should be encouraging people to jump in the Envirothon. Okay, next item here is new business. The floor is open to any remarks from those of you that have any type of business that should come before the Area 1 spring meeting. Boy, silence is golden. We're gonna make it on time. Y'all can bring something up. All right, anybody hearing nothing? I'm gonna move on then to closing remarks. Kevin, would you be interested in chiming in before I chime out?
No, I'd just like to thank everybody for their participation today. And I'm sorry I was a little late joining, but heard most of it. Thank you, Rick, for your chairmanship. That concludes my remarks. So you have the floor, Rick.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Believe it or not, Kevin and I talk a lot more than what we do on the screen. And this thing works out pretty good for both of us, depending on what's going on or what's wrong. When we have a meeting, we get a hold to each other. But I like that. And so I'm having a good time. I personally, too, would again like to thank all that participated today. And just remember that partnerships are great ways to get things done. And we need to keep the communication open to our partners. And for the problems that we see, not just from COVID, trying to reach out to clientele, but also other things that crop up, we, especially to our clients, we need to be persistent. We just can't take one of their answers and take it in concrete unless it is thrown at us. Just be persistent. We've got great places to get answers if we have questions, and let's don't shut down that communication of being persistent to do our job. All right. Again, thank you all. I have a note here that Shenandoah Valley is planning on an in-person Area 1 meeting next year. And I hope all of us are able to do in person as much as possible as the days roll on now. It was so nice seeing your faces unmasked from my perspective. And I think there will be a using of both methods. This Zoom meeting's not bad. Save some travel time and a couple other things, but I miss the fellowship that we share around the table discussing. So there's maybe room for both. I hope so. With that, if there is no one that wants to speak that hasn't spoken, then we're going to call this meeting adjourned, and thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shiflett and Rachel, for all y'all did to make this happen.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Rick.
All
Good to
right,
see
we'll
you,
send you a
Kendall.
bill. Good deal.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Wayne.
You done? Are you done?